Welcome to the West Sports Show. And at the end of a very dramatic trade week, we look at the winners, the losers, and those clubs caught somewhere in the middle. We are out the other side of an exhausting trade week. I am joined by Mitchell Woodcock. Mitch, are you as exhausted as Tom Petroro was at the end of yesterday's trade finale?
God, it was fascinating viewing quarters yesterday, wasn't it? It's deadline day is always this manic day. We weren't really involved as much because there were West Australian teams were pretty much done and dusted well and truly before, but it was just fascinating viewing the Curnow deal, the Merritt deal. And to answer your question, yeah, I'm tired. I reckon I've made over 500 phone calls in the past 10 days just trying to double check things, get information.
Well, you're in your own little trade week suite, weren't you?
Yeah, so I was at the
your North Perth trade week suite.
I was hidden away in my little unit while I was recovering from. I'm the $1 Million Man. Was it? Is that the $1 Million Man? The guy that is fixed up and.
Oh yeah,
yeah, I'm the $1 Million Man now.
You are post surgery yourself. You've gone in for some end of season surgery.
Yeah. Well, it's big season. You got to get through it, and then you have your end of clean
now,
up.
mate. Well, we're going to go through the clubs and see what we think, sort of rate them, how we think they've gone. But let's just start with the two local teams. Let's start with West Coast. In Brandon Starcevic and Tyler Young. So Brandon Starcevic joins the club from the Brisbane Lions, a dual premiership player. Tyler Young, 27-year-old, tall defender. Pick 2, which of course they got for Oscar Allen's move to Brisbane. 13, 34, 41, 53, and St Kilda's second round in 2026. Out go Oscar Allen, Liam Ryan to St Kilda, Campbell Chesser to Carlton, and pick 17, 23, 24, 38, and a third rounder in 2027 go out. That leaves them with picks 1, 2, 13, 34, 41, 53, and 58. And also with the prospect of Devon Robinson coming in as a delisted free agent - rookie. So I'm going to give the West Coast an 8 out of 10 in this draft because I think they've addressed some needs defensively, so Starcevic, Young, but they've also addressed that void they have on their list of the mature age players. So both of these players are mature age players. So I think it's a bit of a tick, but most importantly, mate, I think they've got a really good draft hand.
Well, they've got the best draft hand this year. So we'll quickly just go through the machinations. So the Starcevic deal, I'm not going to go into it
so
every
there is
detail.
An asterisk here for me. I love him. I love what he does, but He has suffered a number of concussions. Yep. They have got some insurance against it. So
and it's a 4-year deal with triggers for a 5th year and then triggers for a 6th year. So it's a 4-year deal initially and then there's game triggers from then on in. Look, this is an interesting deal with this, and I know some people thought West Coast might have overpaid to certain areas, but they essentially turned the Hawthorn pick they got last year into pick 13. So that got upgraded, which is going to fall back anyway. That Hawthorn pick would have been in the 20s. This is still going to stay in the teens. So they're ticked there. The pick that they got essentially from the they got from the AFL as part of that assistance package helped them land Brandon Starcevic. It was a free swing. They didn't need that pick. That pick is good to get Starcevic in. They don't have to sign him as a free agent. They don't dilute pick 2. That's a win for me. The interesting thing is there's a bit of conjecture amongst Eagles fans on 2 deals. The first one's the Tyler Young deal. They paid pick 38 for him. Some are saying, why are you paying a second-round pick for a guy who is out of contract when you can walk him? Well, we know you don't walk players to preseason draft, and we'll talk about that later with another player, but you don't do it unless it's the last move. And the reason that is because it upsets managers, it upsets clubs, it upsets players, it's a massive thing to do. You don't do it lightly. It's a mechanism you can use, but you don't do it lightly. Richmond wanted pick 34. Eagles wanted to hand over pick 41. They met in the middle with pick 38.
That's the way it should. That's how the dance should go.
And I think it's an okay pick for a key defender that's going to walk straight into fullback and slot that position. Starcevic is a win. The other deal that's a bit confusing for players, I think, and again, we'll talk about the preseason draft and this player later, is the Campbell Chesser deal to get pick 41 from Carlton. Out of contract, Campbell Chesser, West Coast, it's probably unders what they should have got, but considering the position they're in with the next generation academies, the fact that they've only got 5 list spots on their main list as well as the 4 extra rookie spots heading into next month.
Over the next 3 years, each year they get 4.
But that's all they've got this year as well, Quarters. So I expect Devon Robertson to take one of those rookie spots, and I expect them to go into the draft with 5 main list spots. I think if they don't fill that 5 list spots, then they'll put Devon Robertson as a delisted free agent, but they can work that out later. He's just coming to the club regardless, right? So essentially, I don't mind the move to get Campbell Chesser off the books, free up a list spot. He wasn't going to stay. It's not the greatest pick in the world, but it'll help them match NGA bids. So honestly, West Coast walk away, like you said, with some key defensive depth. A leader that walks straight in will be part of their leadership group, I would suspect. And Starcevic, like you said, has the caveat of the concussions, but we have to assume that West Coast have done the proper medical. And
well, they
Starcevic
have, but you look, and I hope he plays a very successful 6 years, plays in an Eagles premiership, all of those things. I really do. Terrific young man, dual premiership player. But the fact is he has suffered a number of concussions, and we know the environment we now exist in. So I just hope that he gets the opportunity to play that, at least those 4 years. They have got protection, 90% in the first year, 75 in the second. I think it's 50 in the third. In their salary cap, should he be medically retired at any point. But
don't forget, we've seen, like Daniel Venables had one incident, Aidan O'Driscoll at the Bulldogs sadly had one. It can be a series of concussions like a McGovern, which obviously makes the risk higher, I understand.
It does.
But you can also be terribly unlucky and have one major incident and that's the end of your career. So, I don't mind the risk for West Coast. The other thing is they couldn't go through this trade period without landing something big. And now Starcevic may not be the biggest name compared to some others that flew around, but it's hard to get a player into the bottom place side that's not West Australian. And they couldn't go through the trade period without landing some more mature players. They just couldn't.
That's the void I was talking about earlier. The other good thing is Tyler Young comes from Richmond background, so there is an association with Andrew McQualter.
Yep.
There is an association with Liam Baker. There is an association with Jack Graham, and Brandon Starcevic, of course, is a West Australian. He's
played with the likes of
Mount
Waterman.
Lily Inglewood Roos boy, mate, and a TC boy as well.
And he played with the likes of Waterman and that through, so he knows those kind of guys. And the Liam Ryan trade, obviously, too. Look, he had a year left on his contract. Eagles get a future second for him. Is it ideal? Maybe, maybe not. West Coast just couldn't offer him any more than what St Kilda could.
The last piece of cotton in the golden thread disappears from the Eagles list. That goal in the 2018 grand final. Oscar Allen, we wish him all the best. I think it's a win-win. There's a lot of conjecture over this year. In the end, they got picked 2. Oscar goes to Brisbane. I think he'll play a really significant role there. I hope his health remains. I'm told he's on track and he's looking and he's feeling good about his body. So all the very best to him and his fiancée. I think they're coming back to WA to be married soon. So some exciting times ahead for Oscar.
Oscar's, look, it's a win-win. The Oscar deal, though, just highlights the problem with free agency. Really,
there should be no compensation for free agents. But
that a bottom place side can lose a guy who's 26, who's right in their age gap that they need, and not match a restricted bid on him and end up with pick 2. Like it's a win-win. Everyone played the system perfectly.
Well, the system was there.
The system is broken.
And it will change.
And it has to change.
I think it will.
Because you cannot do this.
Now, can I just add one before we move on? I want to add one. If he's still available and he's willing, I reckon they should have a look at Sam Frost.
Yeah, okay.
Because Sam Frost, who's now no longer on Hawthorn's list, so you just pick him up for nothing. He had a very, very good year in 2024. Obviously, Barras and Battle came to Hawthorn this year, so he was unable to get a game after round 1. He's fit, he's healthy, terrific young man, terrific human. I think he would be worth, if he's available and you've got the list spot, I reckon he should be looked at.
Well, they've got 4 extra rookie spots, so this is their advantage now.
Exactly.
I expect them to take 2 into the summer minimum and have a look at some players. So keep an eye on the likes of Milan Murdoch and Kane Bevan from East Fremantle, West Perth. Keep an eye on Tom Berry, Finn McRae, Harry Schoenberg, former AFL players. I think they're going to trial some mature ages over the time and see what happens.
Mitch, get the home improvement the whole country is talking about. Complete Home Filtration. A water filter for the whole home that means you'll experience not only better tasting drinking water, but also healthier skin and hair. Maybe you can grow some back, Mitch. Reduce scale on shower screens, prolong the lifespan of your appliances, and so much more. Complete Home Filtration has tens of thousands of happy customers, and you'll be raving about your water from the first drop. Visit CompleteHomeFiltration.com.au now and book your free in-home consultation today. That's CompleteHomeFiltration.com.au. Mitch,
how's the drive-by?
Fremantle.
Freo.
Judd McVie, Melbourne. Picks 20, 47, 69, 103. Out Liam Reedy. He's gone to Carlton. Will Brodie to Port Adelaide in search of AFL games, and good luck to both of them. Out picks 13, 24, 34, 51, 54 and 72, leaving them with draft picks 20, 47 and 69. I'm giving him a 7 out of 10. I think McVie, on a 5-year deal, addresses a need, a bit of precision kicking, can play close and can actually play as a very attacking player. So I think with him and Jordan Clark streaming out of that defence, it's going to have a different look about it. Pick 20, Jacob Farrow, West Australian kid from halfback. Is he likely?
So what I can tell you is that, and I'll have a story.
And also, what's your opinion of the, how do you think they've gone?
Well, first off, I'll tell you about Jacob Farrell. I'll have a story. I've spoke to David Walls, and I'll have a story. They've met with him multiple times. They do like him. Whether he's there or not at that stage is going to be an interesting one. So Fremantle quarters have 2 list spots left heading to the national draft.
Yep.
So they'll use the first 2 picks. The Will Brodie selection, as I've explained, was essentially to open up the second list spot and to get rid of the salary off the salary cap. They can't delist him because they would have to pay him out of that contract. Has there ever been a
player taken with pick 103?
Exactly. So it seems insulting, but it works for every party. Port Adelaide, Brodie, Fremantle. Everybody wins that one. The fact that they got McVie and kept a first round pick for me is just it's perfect for Freo. It's great business. They've got 2 picks, a first rounder and a second rounder. They'll take 2 players with that. The option then they've got quarters, and I spoke to David Walls yesterday about this, and it's the AFL don't make these things easy to understand, but I'm going to try and explain this as best I can. They've got 2 list spots and they've got 3 rookie spots. The AFL give you the option to put a rookie onto the main list. And
rookies don't come under your salary cap?
No, they don't. So the 2 NGA products they've got is Toby Wan and Ryder Luke. If they are bid on in the national draft, after the Freo have taken their 2 players.
Please pick up Toby Wan. That's such a good headline name.
Yeah, they have the ability to match that bid, but that rookie spot will then be advanced to the main list. So at the moment, they've got 36 out of 38 main list spots filled because they had to bring up Josh Draper and Jeremy Sharp off the rookie list after serving their mandatory time.
So they've lost Reedy and they've lost Brady. So there's those 2 spots.
Reedy, was on the rookie list. Brodie off the main list, and they lost Fife, Walters, and Jack Delian. So that was 4. Then you add McVie, Draper, and Sharp. So that leaves them with the 2, and they've got the 3 rookie spots. So that you can essentially go 38 and 3 with their rookies, or they can go 39 and 2. They've got the option, so they can match those guys. So that's good news for Freo fans. David Walls told me they're likely, unless they can get a mature ager in either the national draft, which I don't think they will, or the rookie draft, which I don't think they will. I expect them to trial some players over the preseason for a mature age ruckman. I think they're disappointed to lose Liam Reedy. I know they were offered him a contract to stay. Yeah. They needed the backup ruck in case Darcy and Jackson. So that is
something they will target, is backup ruck.
Depth. Yeah, Aiden Riddle is 19 and very raw. They like him, but they just
So Voss can chop out, maybe...
Yeah, but if you lose both of those guys and you're left with Aiden Riddle, you're in a bit of trouble. Mm-hmm. Interestingly, I think they're still a little upset about losing Max Noble last year to Gold Coast. They delisted him and were going to re-rookie him, and Gold Coast swooped in and took him, which was fantastic move by them. They really rated Max Noble, and he'd been developing quite nicely in the waffle. So I think they're a little bit annoyed at that, and then they're a little bit annoyed at losing Reedy. Like I said, they offered him another deal. He was going to they wanted him to stay, but he wanted to look for opportunities. And good on Freo also for facilitating a trade, because they didn't really get much for it, but they'd facilitated a trade. I love what the Dockers did. They brought in a need. They really, they
don't want for much, do they? They're in I'd say if they're not in the premiership window already, they're tapping on it.
They're backing their list, and they've built this list for a long time.
Experience, depth, covered all bases,
and they're still young. I think
maybe another big body in the midfield, but you've got Hayden Young hopefully coming back fully fit, so he will provide that at least.
Yeah, and they'll back the Erasmus, Johnson, and O'Meara, O'Meara to be fit, and Erasmus and Johnson to hopefully take another level. Johnson out of contract next year. I think that's a big watch. I think he needs to take another level. And Nathan O'Driscoll as well. I think there's some guys there that they're backing to try and push through. So, obviously you lose a dual Brownlow medalist, albeit with all due respect to Nat Fyfe, not the same player he was. And Michael Walters you lose as well, but I think they've got that small forward depth to cover it.
So let's swing through very quickly. Let's have a bit of a wrap of the other clubs. So Adelaide in, Finbar Maley from North Melbourne and pick 57. That took us all a bit surprised.
Yeah, I didn't really expect that.
Outs pick 64 and they're 2026 round 4 pick. So they are left with the draft hand of 16, 48, 55, 57, 73, 75, 93 and 111.
Oh, so
a bit of a triple Nelson there, which they won't use, but didn't get Calamachi.
So that was a big story yesterday after
I think it was
merits.
an okay. That was an unspectacular, middle-of-the-road sort of draft period for them.
Yeah, but so they were obviously early on, they were talked about with Petrarca. They didn't pursue that. I think he pretty much chose the Gold Coast and they went, well, we're not really going to be willing to pay that. The Archie thing is so strange. So the
manager and the list manager.
Yeah, so I was speaking to the list managers yesterday for West Coast and Freo. You're required to go on the first day of trade period into Marvel Stadium for a few hours and then do media, and you're required to go in on the last day for a few hours and do media. You don't have to be in there at all.
You can just provide a running commentary if you like through trade radio or whatever you want to do.
But as one list boss said, once you do those 2 days, the other 8 days, you're at cafes, you're in hotels, you're in offices. You're actually not at Marvel. You're very rarely at Marvel Stadium. You're zooming in and out to do deals.
Yeah.
They obviously front the media at the end. We'll talk about another interesting media performance later when we get to St Kilda. Yeah. But I've never seen a manager stand up with a list boss. And Ben Williams was so strong. So
just smashed the Brisbane Lions.
Yeah, so the last offer Adelaide made was pick a future second and a future third. Brisbane wanted either their first round pick or a future first. The deal doesn't go through. He's going to go through the preseason draft, which, like we said before, is a drastic move. West Coast have confirmed they're unlikely to. I spoke to Matt Clark yesterday. He said they're unlikely to bid on him. What Brisbane can do to turn other clubs off is, so it's a 5-year deal on a lot of money. They can front end the heck out of that deal, or they can literally just go to Calamachi, sign him for a 2-year deal, put a 2-year deal price on his head at about $1 million a year or more, turn every other club off, bring him in, and then extend him for another 3 years down the track with on less money. So you can front end the heck out of the deal. They'll get him. He will go through the
bottom line is
draft.
he will end up at Adelaide.
But I find this staggering from Brisbane, and I'm going to talk about Brisbane in a minute, but the fact that they didn't accept that when they were getting nothing. We spoke about West Coast probably getting unders for Campbell Chesser. They didn't get anything for Calamachi because of their hardline stats. I actually thought a future second and a future third for a 28-year-old who's out of contract is actually a pretty good deal.
So Brisbane, Inns, Oscar Allen, Sam Draper from Essendon, pick 17, 23, 51, 59. Melbourne's 2026 round 3 pick. Outs, Brandon Starcevich to West Coast, 20, 45, 47, 53 and 56. Leaving them with draft pick 17, 23, 44, 51, 59, 68 and 79. So I think it's a pretty good draft period for them. They've got a key position forward who can, I'm just thinking Oscar Allen fully fit with all those absolute guns, small and medium forwards at his feet. They're going to be a weapon again next year.
So they got the replacement for Joe Danaher they've been looking for 12 months, which they want to flag in between, which is amazing. Don't forget they're going to get Daniel Annable as well in the draft. So they're bringing him in. They've got a ready-made ruckman after losing McInerney to retirement. Even then, they've got a dual premiership ruckman in Darcy Fort still. Starcevich is a blow. Let's not make any, he held Dangerfield in that grand final, was fantastic, but they've got depth. Caden Coleman didn't play. Tom Doody didn't play.
Forget about Kitty Coleman, don't we?
Yep. And
Jet coming back.
Do you know the big win of them for the off-season too? Will Ashcroft signed a 4-year extension.
Yeah.
They are not going anywhere for the next 5 years, Brisbane.
Now, Carlton, I reckon, have done okay.
Here we go.
First deal that was thrown at them by the Sydney, by the way, what was it, 2 first-rounders, Will Haywood and Ollie Florent, I would have taken. They knocked it back. I thought that was a win for Carlton.
But they got a better one.
Inns, Will Haywood, Ollie Florent, who came separately, Liam Reedy, Campbell Chesser, Ben Ainsworth from Gold Coast, good pickup, as well as picks 9, 11, 43, 54, 67, 72, Sydney's first rounder in 2026 and Sydney's first rounder in 2027 as part of that deal that sent Charlie Curnow to Sydney. They lost Jack Silvani to St Kilda, Tom de Koning to St Kilda, Corey Durden to Port Adelaide, picks 41, 50, 68. Their second round 2026, their third round 2026, and their second round in 2027, leaving them with 9, 11, 43, 54, 67, 72. I reckon they win. Curnow's a good player. I think a little overrated. Will Haywood, I think, is a jet. And Ollie Florent didn't have a great year, spent most of it in the reserves, but we've seen what he can do. Maybe he's a little slow and needs to build defensively, but I think he can be a really good player. I think this is a really good draft for Carlton.
So what I will say for Carlton's sake is 2 things. One is I think they're better balanced now. Losing Curnow is a big deal, and don't get me wrong, but they're small forwards now with Haywood and Ainsworth. If Campbell Chesser can reach anywhere near the potential we think he's got, That's going to add some speed on the outside that they desperately need on the wing. Florent is a good player. Obviously fell out of favour at Sydney. Maybe a fresh start helps him. But the big thing for them, Quarters, is they're going to get Harry Dean in their back line this year as a father-son. And then next year, Cody Walker, who's potentially a number 1 pick. So they may not be set up for next year or the year after. And Paddy Cripps is still not that old. I could see them in about 4 years again being around the mark. Like, I know it seems silly to lose Curnow and be saying, what can they do? But if Michael Voss can hold up, there's a chance.
Collingwood, not so good. Inns, Jack Buller from Sydney, good pickup, local boy. Pick 61, Melbourne's 3rd rounder in 2026, Sydney's 4th rounder in 2026. Outs, Brody Myercheck to Melbourne and pick 71, leaving them with a hand of 39, 45, 56, 61, 77. Myercheck's a big out for them structurally in that forward line. I think they pretty well... I'm not sure where they've gone really in this draft.
No, so they missed out on Jai Simkin. They threw a terrible offer at North Melbourne of a future second.
How many captains wanted out? It was
it was bizarre. Look, Brody Myercheck's as a big out, but Jack Buller's a younger version, essentially. Obviously not proven, but, Myercheck was on his way out as age-wise. They traded him out.
Almost. They thought about a trade for DeGoey too.
Yeah, they needed some salary cap space. They couldn't do much, really, because they brought in... what's his name from Port Adelaide? Dan Houston from Port Adelaide. Sorry, had a mental blank. Last year. So that was 2 first-rounders.
Still finding his feet, Dan Houston.
Their big worry is the age of some of their players, Pendlebury, Sidebottom and stuff. They need to be contending next year. And
particularly ahead of the Tassie curve.
Yeah, and then after that, the priority will be signing Nick Dacos to a long-term deal.
I think Elliott was a big signing for them.
Yeah, massive.
They weren't in the window if he didn't re-sign.
No, but look, not active, but still, I'm not fussed. I think they're around the mark.
Essendon, here's the interesting one. We'll get on to one of the biggest deals or non-deals of it. Okay, Inns, Braden Fiorini from Gold Coast, pick 21, which was free agency compensation for Sam Draper, who's gone to Brisbane. Essendon's, and they lost their round 3 2026 pick, leaving them with 5, 6, 21, 27, 30. Really good hand. The Zach Merritt deal did not happen. So... I understand why they stood their ground. He is contracted for 2 more years. Good luck to them. But I actually think it was a big error not to take up 3 first-round draft picks. I think asking for 4, including futures, ridiculous. I think that was just playing silly games at the end. I think it was a smacked of arrogance. And I think, Mitch, Essendon put personal grievances ahead of the future goodwill of the club.
I don't know if I can do this, Josh, so you might have to blur it out. But that 4 first-rounders to Hawthorn
could never...
Was it that?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's exactly what it was.
It was they were never going to do it.
Why are you playing games in trade week?
Well, they said they were never going to... So I want to take 2 sides to it. So I'll start with the Essendon side, and then we'll talk the Hawthorn side when we get to Hawthorn. Essendon, if they wanted more, they should have been more active and actually hunted a player from Hawthorn. So gone and actually said...
Well, how do you know they didn't through the management?
Well, I don't know.
Cam McKenzie's name was thrown up. Hawthorn said no.
But I don't really think they pushed hard enough. Like if you
Mitch Lewis' name was thrown up.
If you went to a Cam McKenzie and offered him an 8-year deal at $1 million a year to get him out of Hawthorn, you might have actually been able to move the needle and might have been able to get that out. Look, it's interesting. I like the cultural stance in terms of like we're not being bullied. I kind of like that.
Yeah, I don't mind that.
But I can't see Merritt being captain next year. And how are they going to walk him in next year? He's going to have to talk about this.
The only thing I'll say, mate, is footy clubs are interesting spaces. It will be uncomfortable at first, no doubt, and particularly because some of his teammates cracked him.
Yeah,
which was remarkable that they did that.
This whole saga has been just a mess.
When it came out, Merritt approached Hawthorn, not the other way around. Yeah. But when it came out, there was a character assassination of Zach Merritt.
It was an interesting PR campaign,
which I thought was really poor because never before have you heard any slight on his character until this happened. All of a sudden, there were these character flaws. I thought that was pathetic, and I don't think he deserved it because no one has given more to that club than Zach Merritt. Now, he will go back. It'll be a bit uncomfortable. He's a professional. He'll be able to weather that storm and still play some really good footy for him.
What I will say now is it's incumbent on Essendon, and Matt Innes getting him over from West Coast was a good start, but it's incumbent on Essendon now to create a club and an environment where they can improve and where they can address the issues. Because I can tell you right now, if they don't, he'll look for a trade out next year, whether it's to Hawthorn.
It's not over.
Whether it's to Hawthorn or somewhere else. But the other problem they're going to have is that other players might open their eyes to the problems that Zach Merritt is seeing. Whether they're their problems or not, I'm not sure. Only Zach Merritt can answer this.
One thing I will say in defending Essendon, they had a lot of injuries this year, more than any other club.
They did, but is that high performance or is that bad luck?
Well, I think it's a mixture.
So they've got to address the high performance side of this. So I'm not sure if the issues that Zach Merritt is seeing are there or not. Only people inside the club and Zach Merritt would know that.
No one would be more informed than Zach Merritt.
But if other players open their eyes to it, next year could be a lot worse for Essendon. So that's a big 12 months for the Bombers.
So you're saying it was a sort of a standoff that...
It was never going to happen unless Hawthorn paid overs. And we'll talk about what Hawthorn maybe could have done later, but it just didn't work.
Okay, Geelong, interesting trade period. They get James Wolfe from Hawthorn and pick 99. Out Resco to Richmond, draft picks, left with 1940, 60, 78. Importantly... didn't get Rowan Marshall, didn't get Charlie Curnow through the door. Warple's a good in for them. I think that blue collar inside mid is something they need. Interesting for Hawthorn. It's a loss now when you look at the fact they didn't get Merritt, but I think Warple is not going to win you or lose you a premiership, but he certainly helps the greater cause. So I think it's good in. Marshall, disappointed for him that he didn't get to Geelong. Yeah. They haven't really had a premier ruckman, though, have they?
No, but Reece Stanley's still a good ruck, and Blitzarves, I think, probably should have played there. But look, they offered, the future first and a future third, I think, late yesterday. Yep. Geelong, they had a real big crack. Interesting, just quick on the Retro one, I find this, he was delisted and then traded to get to Richmond. Just fascinating that... a weird name in the history of animals that will just go down.
You get halfway through trade week and your brain starts exploding. Fair to him. Now, Gold Coast, arguably have the best performer of the draft. Unbelievable. Ins, Jamara Ugle-Hagan from the Western Bulldogs. Yes, comes with great risk, but it's a one-year deal with a trigger of a second, so no great harm done. Christian Petrarca from Melbourne. He's just going to do so much for that midfield. Pick 24, 28, 29, 37, 51, 69. Melbourne's 2026 second round. Essendon's 2026 third round. Out Sam Flanders to St Kilda. Connor Bedarick to Western Bulldogs. Fiorini to Essendon. Roses Jr. to Sydney. Ainsworth to Carlton. Pick 8, 37, 62, 70. Their first rounder in 2026 and their third rounder in 27, leaving them with 15, 18, 24, 28, 29, 36, 52, 74, 92 and 110. Lost a bit of depth there.
Yep.
But, gee, they've gained something.
But they've got depth too. So Jake Rogers stayed after maybe looking around to see what he could do. They're going to get Dylan Patterson through their academy. They've got academy players coming out their wazoo in the next few years too. So they'll add depth through that area. So losing those guys is just a natural course of it. They needed to clear some cap room to get Petrarca. I think Petrarca is going to help Noah Anderson. So watch out for Noah Anderson to win a Brownlow next year, because I just think that ability for him and Rao to handball out 20 Anderson is going to make
Rao to go back to back.
Yeah, but imagine, that ability to give the ball onto the outside to him. I think losing Sam Flanders hurts, but they got pick 7 for him and then turned it into Petrarca. So it works. Petrarca, if he can get back to anywhere near as that third midfielder in Gold Coast midfield, if he can get anywhere near back to his best, or even 80% of it, geez, they're going to be a top 4 threat.
Gee, I can't wait to see.
But I want to watch that. I want to watch that forward line makeup, and it's a long-term watch. I'm saying it right now on Jed Walter, uncontracted for next year.
There is cackle about it.
All of a sudden, there's Reid, Walter, Jamara Ugle-Hagan, and King in that forward line. One of them can't play.
GWS, big in for them, in my opinion, in that midfield. Again, some risk, but a big in. Clayton Oliver and pick 12 come into the Giants. Outs, Jacob Ware to Port, pick 14, 37, and a third rounder in 2026. Left with 12 and 35. I think Leeka Lear, of course, he was going to St Kilda and remains at GWS. I think Oliver is going to add a fair bit to that midfield. Let's see what happens with Josh Kelly. He's the big question mark for next year over his fitness.
Clayton Oliver, bargain buy, future third. Melbourne are paying about half his salary. It's just a win for GWS. He's got 5 years there. If he, plays up there, then I don't know. I just think it works. I really do. They did well.
Hawthorn, not such a good draft period when you think about what they were trying to get Zach Merritt in just to put the final layer on that midfield. Ins, pick 10, 22, Sydney's third rounder in 2026. Out, James Warple to Geelong. Changwath Giath to Melbourne. Jai Sarong to Sydney. Pick 9, 31, and a fourth rounder in 2026. Leaving Hawthorn with 10, 22, 62 and 76. Of course, it was all about trying to get Zach Merritt in. They didn't, so you've got to say it was a failed draft period. I still think the Hawthorn list is pretty impressive. Midfield depth is going to be an issue. Jai Sarong, very talented, just couldn't break into that Hawthorn back six. VFL best and fairest for Hawthorn back-to-back years. CJ, interesting player. He'll give them some He'll give Melbourne electrifying pace off a half-back flank. Obviously, they've lost McVie there. I call him Captain Risky because whenever he gets the footy, my heart's in my mouth being a Hawks fan. But I don't think they're huge outs for Hawthorn, to be honest. But there's not very big ins. So
Lost a little bit of depth. What I'll say on Hawthorn is I reckon if they had offered another midfielder, Ward or McKenzie up, they would have been a lot closer to getting merit.
They weren't interested in that.
Yeah, I know, but they probably had to give a little more to
Losing
get
Warple, they couldn't lose another mid.
But you couldn't. You had to lose a little bit to get merit in quarters, I think. And I know that's tough.
So they offered Hustwaite up.
Yeah, but he's not. But he's a 10-game player. We don't know what he is.
Correct.
What I'll say about Hawthorn is I don't reckon they'll go for merit next year. I wouldn't be surprised if
Zach Butters.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be surprised if they get out of this year's draft and trade some future first.
And trade the 10 and 22 and try and go up and
watch out for next year. I reckon they're going to have a big. I reckon next year's trade period is going to be bigger. With King out at Gold Coast, I reckon he'll be a chance to get to Collingwood. But I reckon the big one is Zach Butters and Hawthorn. So watch this space the next 12 months.
Melbourne, a good trade period ends. Jack Steele from St. I'm glad he's got another chance. CJ, we mentioned. Brody Myercheck from Collingwood. Max Heath from St Kilda. Pick 7, 8, 37, 71. Gold Coast first rounder in 2026. GWS's third rounder in 2026. Gold Coast third rounder in 2027. Outs. Petrarca to Gold Coast, Oliver to GWS, McVie to Fremantle, Spargo to North Melbourne, 24, 28, 42, 61, second rounder in 2026, and a third rounder, and a fourth rounder in 26, third rounder in 27, fourth rounder in 27, very active, leaving them with draft picks 7, 8, 37, 66, and 71. Stephen King has enforced very quickly a culture change at Melbourne and is going to replenish. They're very big outs, but we're sort of anticipating it. I think it's been a great trade period for them.
So this tells me two things, Quarters. One, they're going to go young in the midfield, so they didn't think Petrarca... Well, Petrarca they would have kept if they couldn't get the right deal, but they got a lot for him. Oliver probably should have sold a few years ago, but they needed him out. They're going to pay half his salary, but they just didn't want him on the books. Bringing Jack Steele in is an instant replacement for a Petrarca, but he's more defensively minded. So what that allow him to do is it allow him to play that role, and those younger midfielders that they're going to bring in, Langford, Windsor, and probably some others, to actually play more attacking and learn the game. So I think it really works for them. I think this is a mini reset. Honestly, Melbourne could be back in the top 8 in the next 3 years.
Jack Steele, I'm happy for him, but it shows you the emotional price you pay during trade. Did not want to leave St Kilda.
Saints are paying half his salary.
And they've just tossed him onto the heap, haven't they? Because he's lost a bit of pace, gone from captain, lost a bit of pace. We no longer require you. Off you go. This is the nasty side of it.
Wait till I get to St Kilda. I've got some strong opinions.
North Melbourne, a bit of a nothing trade period, to be honest. Charlie Spargo in as a free agent, 57, around 4, 2027, 2026 pick from Adelaide. Outs, Finbar Marley to Adelaide, pick 64, left with 25, 26, 46 and 57. So those trading out last year's really hurt them. They're not active early in this draft. Yeah,
so Whitlock's got to turn into... It's not fair on the young kid, but for North Melbourne's sake, he's got to turn into a good defender. Should have gone for Lee Kalia when St Kilda pulled out. They didn't. I don't know why. They're backing in the defence they've got. I don't think it's good enough. Spargo's a good addition, but he's not going to set the world on fire. He's not going to win fairest and best. I don't mind him, but North, I'm worried about them. I really am. And Jai Simpkin wanted out. He can't be captain.
So, again, I mentioned Sam Frost earlier. Get him into your defence.
Yeah, they need him in there. Yeah, they should
do the Western Bulldogs. So he'll end up on a list.
He should be delisted free agent straight out.
Yep. Port Adelaide. They're a bit of a nothing again, I reckon. Inns, Jacob Ware from GWS, Corey Durden from Carlton, Brody from Fremantle. Good to see Will Brody get an opportunity. And Carlton's second rounder in 2026. Outs, 29, 67 and 103. Draft picks. Left with nothing, 49 and 85, right in that centre of that meaty part of the mediocrity. Just really, Josh Carr, first year in charge. I think all eyeballs will be on Zach Butters this year.
Yeah, so Josh Carr's kind of backing what they've got. They've got a bit of depth there in terms of midfield depth. I like what they've got. I think it's Dougie Cochran is the father-son for next year too, so they'll be looking at him. Yeah, the Zach Butters thing is just going to be massive the next 12 months, Quarters.
Richmond didn't really explode out of the blocks either. A very sleepy period for them. Ian was Retch, go from Geelong. We mentioned him earlier in pick 38. Tyler Young to West Coast and pick 99, but left with a pretty good hand, left with picks 3, 4 and 38. They had their big draft year last year, but they're left with a bit.
They're going young again. Pick 3 and 4 this year is great. They'll have those guys. It'll probably be blown out once. They'll bid on some of those academy guys from Gold Coast and Brisbane. You'd expect if West Coast don't with pick 1 and 2. I don't mind what they're doing. I think they're fine.
St Kilda, here's your opportunity to smash them. Inns, Tom De Koning, well done. Jack Silvani, well done. Sam Flanders, well done. Liam Ryan, well done. West Coast round 3 pick in 2027. Melbourne's round 3 pick in 2027. Melbourne's round 4 pick in 2027. Out, Jack Steele, Max Heath, 7 and a second rounder in 2026. Left with 50, 65, 86, 104. As expected, Mitch, really active in the trade period. Some great ins, but the leaker handling was disgraceful.
Disgusting.
You go to a kid and say, this is what the contract we're offering you, and you're able to do it. They just ran out of probably salary cap.
Well, they did. So they offered him 4 years by $750 roughly, it was reported. He stayed at Gold Coast for 2 years on about half that money. That's life-changing for a young man. I can't believe they've done it. And then the way Ross Lyon, who's now...
He's running the whole show now.
He's going to be their footy boss long-term as well as their coach, directly reporting to the CEO. And the way he shut it down in the media yesterday was pretty bad. If that was... No disrespect to Lee Kalia's manager, but if that was a bigger management stable, there's no way they would have done it. The second thing I don't like is they're going to be better on the field, no doubt, but to lose your captain and then ship him off and pay half his salary, I want to know what the culture is like at that club. I really do, because it's going to be dangerous to do
Lyon
that.
teams have a pop and then fizzle out very quickly. So let's see what happens with this team.
This
it's
is
all
pressure.
in.
They have to play finals next
they're
year,
all
Quarters.
I agree.
They have to play finals. And I tell you what, if they don't, Ross Lyon is now the number one man on this. Like Savani and Gubby Allen are around there too. But that team of 3 have done a lot this trade period, but they might have done a lot of damage as well.
Big ins at Sydney. Curnow, Sarong, Malcolm Roses Jr., good player from Gold Coast, 62, 31, 42. Carlton's third rounder in 26. Hawthorn's fourth rounder in 26. Collingwood's third rounder in 26. Carlton's second rounder in 27. Out, Will Hayward, Ollie Florent, Jack Buller to Collingwood, 51, 69, 11. Sydney, their first rounder in 2026 and 2027 and 2020 and a third rounder in 2026. Left with 31, 32, 42, 63. They've now got the big name full forward, a.k.a. Tony Lockett.
They do it all the time.
Buddy Franklin. It's a good win
Barry
for them.
Hall.
I reckon Carlton's won the deal.
Yeah.
But it's a good in for them, and it does suit a need.
So 2 things on that. First off, they're all in. They need to play finals next year, top 4 next year. But that midfield kicking towards Curnow, Warner, Gould and Heaney.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing that.
That's exceptional. Lost a bit of depth up forward. Interesting to see what they do. The draft pick stuff is interesting. Obviously spent a lot of first-round draft picks, but their academy is what's interesting here. What does their academy hold the next few years? Sydney would know. And I wonder if they're happy to give those first-round picks because they know there's some talent that they can boost with some late picks later on and bring those guys in. Sydney are a smart club. So, look, I don't reckon they're going anywhere for a while. Obviously, it's all in, chips in, but their academy system allows them to do this. Massive advantage for them. Don't be surprised if they're playing deep in finals next year.
Where does Logan McDonald play, forward or back next year?
Well, he's got to play forward, but it means McCartan can play back, Sarong will play back. It's a curious
He plays
thing.
forward. Will Hayward's out of that team. Again, I'll repeat it. I've said it for the third time. I really rate Will Hayward.
Yeah, and
expect him to have a big year.
Curnow's got to kick some goals now.
Yeah, he does.
A lot of money. He's got to stay fit.
Yeah,
he's
got to halve a lot of contests.
A lot of money.
He's got to kick some goals, but halving a few contests won't hurt. You've got good players.
Quick question with that notice. Yeah. Smaller SCG. Suit Curnow?
No, I think it can suit him.
Lead up forward, out of the square, power, kick goals from anywhere. Yeah, I do too.
Barely knows the forward arc touches the square almost.
And you know what? The anonymous living, perfect for a guy like him.
Yeah, he'll love it. Finally, onto the Western Bulldogs. Mediocre again. Inns, Budarik, pick 14, 70, 74. Jamarga Ugle-Hagan leaves for the Gold Coast and pick 12. So left with draft picks 14, 33, 70 and 74. Really needed a key defender. Didn't get it, which is why I mentioned earlier, just go for Frost.
So they went for Callum Wilkie, got said no. Yep. Reported this morning they went for Mark Keane out of Adelaide as well and got told no.
Yep.
Big win getting the 800 grand off the books for Jamarga Ugle-Hagan, as well as the issue with him. So don't mind the way they've done that. Like you said, they need a key defender and need a restructure. But look, they've got the midfield and they've got the forward line.
This AFLW update is brought to you by Woodside Energy, a proud major partner of the Fremantle Dockers, supporting local footy from grassroots to greatness. We'll go straight on to the Dockers in that case. It's a Saturday game. We'll get on to the Eagles and a Friday night game in a minute. Fremantle just need to keep winning. They're 11th. They're playing 15th place GWS. It's a road trip. Good win against Melbourne last week. To still have a very, very low percentage, so need to get some scores on the board. Really sad to see Anya Tai last week, another knee injury.
Hope she's okay.
Yes, we send our very best to her. They're a good, strong list, Fremantle. It's just they've had such a tough fixture this year, so they just need to keep winning.
Can win this weekend. They do that, they're a real chance. But like you said, that percentage, those big losses early in the season really hurt them.
Yeah, they did, didn't they? Friday night, we're at Sullivan Logistics Stadium for a night game against Geelong. West Coast going okay. 8th on the ladder, playing the Cats, who are 10th. It was a funny old game last week against Adelaide. They were pretty well beaten for 3 quarters, but then almost got to within them. They lost by 17 points, so it's a really good final quarter. The keys to this game will be Ailing Maloney. She kicked 6 goals against them last year. Was at the Daisy Pearce press conference yesterday. What are they going to do? We've got several options. She kicked 2 in their comeback win against GWS last week. Look, I like what West Coast are doing. It's a really good defence, and well done to Jess Wrench for getting the Rising Star nomination.
Tough as nails,
They've
isn't
had 2 Rising Star nomination, her and Lou Painter in round 1. They're both housemates. And, yeah, she's tough as nails. Mate, she comes from country Victoria. Of course she's tough.
Oh, God, here we go.
Learned to play footy off her 2 brothers, so she's tough. Charlie Roberts, really good in defence last week in her 50th game. And Ella Roberts just keeps getting it done. Was a little subdued last week, but a great effort. I'm going to pick Freo. I'm going to pick both local teams to win this weekend and keep their finals chances going.
Yeah, I am too. And West Coast, look, they're either going to be the heartbreak story of the year when they miss out on finals, or the heartwarming story when they play their first final series under Daisy Pearce. I hope it's the latter. It'd be from a journalistic side as well as a West Australian side.
Absolutely. You have been listening to the West Sports Show. It has been an intriguing trade wrap, Mitch. I'll just leave you with one thought, mate. 10-day trade period, effectively 8 days when you take out the weekend. It's too long. Go back to a 5-day trade period. Don't tell me the events of last night wouldn't have happened if it was last Friday.
No, you know what? I'm going to go a little bit different. I'm going to go 5 days, the weekend, and then Monday deadline. Give you the weekend to negotiate.
I'll at least take that, because the Wednesday is too long.
But give you the weekend to negotiate some real big deals when there's nothing happening, give it a bit of speculation, and then bring it on Monday, hit everyone between the eyes. And then the draft 2 weeks later.
Yeah, bang.
Cramp it all in.
Remember, you can watch or listen to this podcast on YouTube Music. Thank you for watching and listening to the West Sports Show, and thank you, Mitch.
Thanks, Quarters.